Hello, welcome to Broken Grounds video series. My name is Kareen and it's springtime in Montana. We're here at the end of March and today I want to talk to you about season extension techniques using a small greenhouse. So as you can see in the background, we have a small prefab greenhouse that was generously gifted to us by a friend that no longer wanted to use it. And I want you to notice a couple things about the relative placement of that greenhouse. Although you can't tell really, there are garden beds in front of that greenhouse that take advantage of the reflective properties and the microclimate that's created by that front area of the greenhouse. And there are garden beds to the back of it and also surrounding it. I have an herb garden or an herb spiral here in the front as well. And so basically the greenhouse is right plopped in the middle of our garden. So that's a good thing to keep in mind when you're thinking about relative placement. In addition to that, the greenhouse is fairly close to the house. So where I'm standing right now, I'm about 25 feet from our house. So the greenhouse itself is roughly maybe 30 to 35 feet from our back door. So I've put it there for a couple reasons. One, when I'm growing my early season greens, I want them to be fairly accessible. I want it to be really easy and convenient for me to grab a bunch of lettuce mix and to take it in to make a salad for dinner. So that's one reason why it's so close to the house. And the other reason is that I use this greenhouse to grow out my early season seedlings, or not my early season seedlings, to grow out my seedlings, I'm sorry. And this springtime weather, it still gets down too cold at night to keep the seedlings in the greenhouse unheated. So I'm actually bringing the seedlings in every night into the house. Now I could heat a greenhouse like this, in which case I could have started my greens a lot sooner in the season, but I don't really want to mess with electrical cords and all of that. And I'd much rather buy my greens from a local grower at the farmer's market, that they're already heating greenhouses on a large commercial scale. So I'd much rather support them rather than mess with running electrical out there and running a heater in the evening or during the night. So one thing again, so this is a great option for early season greens and for growing seedlings. It's not the best option actually for summer crops, is what I've found in my experience. So growing tomatoes in there, the tomatoes in my greenhouse have been a lot less productive than the ones outside in the garden. And mostly the reason for that is likely to do with ventilation and the fact that it gets way too hot in the greenhouse during the summer. So if you are thinking of getting a greenhouse, and especially if you have the option to custom build a greenhouse, I'd highly recommend that you put in as much ventilation as possible, even removable windows and doors that you can take out during the summer months so that it's just not as hot in there. So again, I could run electrical and a fan out to that greenhouse during the summer, but again, it's just something that I don't want to mess with, don't want that extra electric bill, and would much rather maybe experiment with other things like super hot crops like melons in there to see how they do. So that's what I'm going to experiment with this year, and I'll let you know how it goes. So again, I use this greenhouse, and today what we're going to do is we're going to seed some greens in the greenhouse so that we get this early season crop of greens in April and May. And by the time it gets starting to get too hot in there, I'll kind of cut back all of that lettuce. I'll use some of those seedlings, I'll transplant some of those seedlings, and I'll put them outside in the garden. And then I'll put in my hot crops. And while that's all going on, while those greens are growing in the bottom area, I'm also growing on the shelves all of my seedlings. So it's a way to stack functions in the greenhouse that I've found to be really useful. So let's go and take a closer look at the greenhouse and seed some greens. So welcome to the greenhouse, and it's about maybe 55, 60 degrees outside, and I am sweating here in the greenhouse despite having this window open, the door ajar, and this vent open. So like I said, something like this can get really hot really quickly. You'll notice I have twine hanging here. These were used as trellises for my tomatoes last season, and so I'll likely use them for the melons that I'm going to experiment with this season, and I'll trellis them on these bits of twine. And then you can also see these shelves here, and this whole area, I have shelves for this whole area, and so this is where I'm going to be placing my seedlings as they grow out during the springtime. And once they're done and they're transplanted to the garden, I can then remove these shelves and then grow up. The melons will grow up through here. And so, like I said, we're going to grow and seed a bed of greens all below here. I have in here a combination of different seeds. I have mustard greens, I have lettuce, I have spinach, I have broccoli, kale, arugula, and I have them all combined, and I'm just going to broadcast them down on the seed beds. If you're a fairly experienced gardener and can tell the difference between a weed and the greens that are coming up, great, then broadcasting is really easy and simple. But if you aren't, then I'd recommend that you put these more in your kind of regular traditional rows so that you know where you've seeded and where you haven't. So let's do that right now. All right, so here I have a flat seed bed for broadcasting those seeds. So I just kind of smooth it out, and many of you who have done this before are probably familiar with doing this. And then I'm just going to take a small handful of seeds. Again, this combination, variety of different types of seeds and greens. And I'm going to go ahead and just broadcast them in this area. Not super dense, but dense enough so that not a lot of weeds will come up between them. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue to broadcast this area, fill it up with a bunch of seeds. And then once I've done that, once I'm done and I feel pretty good about it, I want to have the seeds make contact with the soil. And then again, take some soil and just lightly cover all of those seeds. You may notice that there's a bunch of feathers in here. It's because I also run my chickens in the greenhouse at the end of the season so they can clean stuff up and they can kind of deposit their manure and fertility in the greenhouse as well. So once I've covered them up, I might cover up a little bit more. There we go. I'll just go ahead and water them in very gently. So water in a greenhouse is also something that you should be aware of. Because it's not exposed to the outside and to the rain and snow, and when you can, try to use rainwater in the greenhouse. It doesn't have to be always, but if you collect rainwater from your gutters, for example, use that to water the greenhouse because it'll get the benefits of the minerals that are in that rainwater. And because your outside garden is exposed to that on a regular basis, it's nice to get a nice infusion of rainwater into your greenhouse. It's good for the soil and it's good for the plants. So again, I'll repeat this process around the whole bottom of this greenhouse, and I'll keep it moist, so probably watering it every day until those seeds germinate. And by April, I'll be eating a bunch of great greens. So thank you again so much for watching, and please share any other comments if you have experience growing in a small greenhouse, or if you have questions or additional things or ideas, feel free to leave those in the comments below. So thanks again so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.